Hey, this is the Village Phoenix Report. I'm trying to do a live stream. I've never done this before. I just opened up Twitch for the first time. Looks like it says I have one viewer. Can you chat something in the chat room for me? Right on, there we go. You live in Portland? I am live in Portland. I am walking down towards the Justice Center. I was down there about 45 minutes ago. There were about maybe 200 people there. Last night they started bonfires, so I don't know how rowdy they'll get tonight. But you are my first viewer, and this is my first time trying to use Twitch, my first live stream. Just started doing all this about a month ago, and I'm learning how to do it as I go. I've never done anything like the documentation I've been doing on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook recently. All right, so this is the Apple store here, all boarded in black with the paint on it. That's the Pioneer Square Mall. That's the Pioneer Square Courthouse, and behind it is the Pioneer Square, that's what that's called. But this is where the epicenter of the riots started on, May 29th. They broke into this mall down at this corner that I'm facing to is where they broke in, and you can see the Louis Vuitton signs right there. That's the first store that they hit, because it's the first store you come to in the mall. This is Apple. After they got all their windows smashed that weekend, they came up and put all these black boards up 10, 12 feet high. It's turned into like a little art center. Some of these artists are actually really good. Regardless of what you believe about the events or protest, some of these artists are pretty good. The elk statue, sorry, I'm learning how to do this. I'm walking and talking at the same time. The elk statue has been there for 120 years. It's a fountain. It's down in the center of all the, legal district there. Those several blocks there are where a lot of protests and events happen. The courthouse, the county courthouse, the jail, the police station, the federal courthouse is all right there. Anyways, the statue is 120 years old. It's just of an elk. It's like a Portland staple. It's in the middle of the street. The street actually breaks in two. It's a one-way street to go around it. But throughout the protests, since it's a couple hundred yards away from the entrance to the Justice Center, so throughout the protest, that's where people have been hanging out. You can climb on top of it and get like a better view. But it only got destroyed just because it's right there and people are hanging out to it. There's no political reason to it. It was just something to destroy. There are two other statues right by it that have been vandalized and defaced with spray paint, but they haven't toppled those, and those have political reasons for someone to be mad about. There's the Oregon Volunteer Infantry statue that gets defaced every night with spray paint, and the veterans come out and clean it up every day. That obviously has war connotations that people want to get rid of. And then there's also a settlers statue that has ties with the idea of manifest destiny and white colonization and the destruction of the Indians. That I could understand somebody's motive for doing that, whatever your political perspective is, but the elk statue is simply a piece of art. It's also a iconic Portland staple. So we're walking up on this. So they've had a buttload of fireworks going off tonight, like a city fireworks show for the 4th of July. Amount of there have been a lot of money spent on these tonight. So this is the Oregon Volunteer Infantry statue. You can't really see it because it's dark, but there's a soldier, like an old revolutionary type soldier up there. Right over there is the federal building. For some reason they just took all the sheathing and plywood off of the windows recently, and they immediately covered with spray paint. But looks like they've broken into it already. Yeah, it's like I walked by this earlier. Why the hell did they take the plywood off of it? If anybody watching, so I still got one watcher. If you want to share this for me, So they've already broken the window here, tried to get in there. This is a federal building, so the crimes that happen here are actually federal crimes. So people don't realize that when they're doing stuff like this. There's some police there, it says, but they're dressed like soldiers in camo. So we have another battle scooter here. If you watch my videos out of Chaz and the Saddle, the battle scooters are pretty popular.
Bring your pussy ass out here!
So, and I didn't bring my gas mask. I didn't know it was going to get like this tonight. If you can share this, I appreciate that. So, it's going to take a few minutes before it pops off here. The Portland police take a little while first. They're usually pretty slow to move in.
We need a medic!
Where'd you get shot?
Medic, please!
He's got a boo-boo, he's fine. So I'm gonna walk over here and show you the statue. Hey, you're my second stream watcher today. This is my first stream ever. Thanks for coming in. Hopefully get some more. So this is a statue they ruined last night. You can see that's the pedestal where the elk used to be. The city removed it today. Some people say that it wasn't really damaged, but the report was that it was removed because it was so damaged. See how the concrete is broken around the walls in the fountain, in the pool? They set bonfires in this little basin here. I think the masonry work got damaged here due to the heat from the bonfire. It's the same thing all the way around. We had fires in each one of these pits last night. All right. And I'll try to respect people for not wanting to be on camera unless they're menacing or part of the protest, and I will have no problem putting them on camera. So that's the ruined statue. You see here they've started another fire in one of these pits. There's some smoldering mortar fireworks that they just set off. Seriously, earlier they probably set like $1,000 of fireworks off in just a couple minutes. And some more there. So this police cover line was set up by the anarchists. I call them anarchists because that's the description of them, not because they say they're anarchists, but because they're acting lawlessly. So they set up this police caution tape here and the little makeshift tiny barrier there. So recently, this is the Justice Center in Portland, Oregon. This is where the epicenter of the riots and protests have started. Back at the end of May, there were people, several tents camped out here in front of this entrance here. When the riot broke out, they cleared all the tents out and pushed people away. So I don't know, I just got back from CHOP the other day in Seattle. You see all these panels here on the lower levels that look white in the picture, and this right here, this blockage off here, that's all new. There's about a 12 to like 16 foot walkway beyond those panels into the building, and all these squares here were open air windows, and they've closed all that down. The same thing upstairs. Those panels right here were just an open area, but they've closed all that down recently. They put a bunch of plywood up there too. That was all glass, which is weird because, as I said just a minute ago, the federal building did the opposite and opened up. I kind of wonder if that was tactical for some reason, because if you look, the protest is kind of focused on that building now. Usually it's focused on the Justice Center building. So that's kind of weird. So, got little windows up there where police are peeking out and a dumpster on fire. So that door right there with the black spray painting on, right here is all new. All that plywood is all new. That door right there, this whole thing right there was an open air entrance to that giant walkway in front of the building. That's been recently closed. See down at the end of the street here where that car's coming, you can barely see the yellow ribbons. That's caution tape that the anarchists set up earlier to shut down that street. So I'm gonna walk amongst here. So we're not that big of a crowd here right now. Maybe 200 or 300 people. And then it doesn't make sense to me that they took the boards off of these windows. I don't know when they did that. It's the first time I've seen it. But all that was boarded up, and the Justice Center was not boarded up. It's That doesn't make sense to me. You guys got any ideas on why they would do that? Why they would take the boards off the windows at the Justice Center? I mean, excuse me. They took the boards off the windows at the Federal Building and then boarded up the Justice Center. The only thing I can think of is if you get arrested at this building, it's a federal crime. If you get arrested for doing stuff at the Justice Center building, it's just a non-federal crime. It's a county building. It's not federal property. So I'm gonna look at my tweets here, or chats. Okay, they're spraying some mace, and there sounds like they're shooting some pepper balls. These are coming out of the federal building, so these are like federal police. These are Homeland Security type police. I haven't interacted with them before. They're dressed in camo. The Portland police have been pretty slow to act, and they're pretty cool for people that are videoing and journalizing, journalists, as long as you're not provoking them or getting in their way. They've been pretty cool with me and other reporters. If you see videos of Portland police attacking people, oh crap, man. Crap, look at this. It's gonna pop off here in a minute. Have you seen these federal police respond yet? Do they act the same as the Portland police?
They're more aggressive.
Are they? When did they take the boards off these windows?
A couple days ago, 2 days ago.
Did they do the boards at the Justice Center at the same time? What's your thoughts on that? Does that make any sense to you that they would switch and try to get the attention over here to this building?
They might be doing it to get people to react so that they can get more leeway in how they handle the crowd.
The only thing I can think of is if you do a crime at this building, it's federal property, and that's a way more intense crime. That seems like a weird tactic. All right, thanks, man. Sorry, as you see, this is starting to get more chaotic. I've never done this before, so if I'm not reading your chats, sorry. These dudes know how to protest. Yeah, this is a bit disappointing. Not to film people doing things, just film the results. No, I'm pretty aggressive in my filming. I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I'm big enough to where people think twice. And Portland's not like Seattle. There's not as many guns here. Seattle was pretty interesting because the federal police just retreated into the building. I can only imagine that's to regroup and talk about an attack, or not an attack, but talk about their engagement of the crowd and what they're going to do. They can literally excessive force and more charges yet. Yeah, I'm not a conservative, but I'll be honest for anybody that's watching, I lean right. I'm not a liberal. I'm not for these events. I'm not for anarchy. I'll talk about that more some other time, but I am actually for certain kinds of anarchy, but just lawlessness and attacking people and attacking police and attacking buildings, I'm not for that. But what was the point of me saying that? So, but with all that being said, I find it very, very, very strange that they boarded up the Justice Center, which is a county building, and then opened up the windows to the federal building. It's the only reason I can see that happening is for them to lure the protesters to this building where they'll incur federal prosecution rather than just state prosecution. And if anybody's familiar with that, okay, that loud horn is Portland police. That's not the federal police. That's Portland police. They've declared it a civil. I can't hear exactly what he's saying, but usually they declare it a civil unrest, and then they give it a little bit longer. And if things keep happening the way they go, then they'll start making a presence, and then they'll start gassing and pushing people through the town. Oh, it's been considered a riot. They're using more intense language, so I imagine that means they're going to use a more intense response. But as I was saying, it seems weird that the only thing I can understand is that they're trying to lure people onto federal property so that they can get prosecuted. Federal property crimes are way more intense. If you've ever looked into that, you can go to jail for a long time for the stupidest little offenses if it happens on federal property. Yeah, there's been a big movement the last week in Portland about these journalists that are getting attacked and leveled. Some guy had his GoPro handled. But there's different atmospheres and different vibes in different cities. That's kind of a Portland thing. You've got a lot of these citizen journalists that are independent, and they're part of the protest. They're part of the anarchy, and I've watched many of them go up and provoke the police and then edit their video or film it in a way that makes it look like they were attacked with no provocation. But that's a big movement this last week. The protesters are getting, or the journalists are getting arrested. So hopefully if you shared that sooner, later, JS, don't expect now, of course. Were they necessarily like professional journalists with a mainstream media outlet, or were they independent journalists? Because the ones that I've seen on Twitter and online reporting the things, like the guy that had his GoPro stolen, he was an independent guy that sources his media to many outlets.
Watch out! Watch out! There's a cycle open. Watch out!
My goal is not to get arrested. I don't want to get arrested. Man, I wish I would have brought my gas mask and I didn't know this was going to happen. I should have thought about it. They've been getting more rowdy, and the police have had a heavier hand from what I've been reading this last week. All right. Well, we'll see what I see tonight as far as what happens to journalists, and if I'm able to. As I said, this is new for me. My first live stream on anything. First use of Twitch. But if I see journalists getting toppled, or if you see them on my stream, let me know, and I'll try to talk about it or investigate it. But as I said, from my perspective here in Portland over the last month, when I've documented these things, if I'm filming, I've been in the middle of a crowd being pushed through town several times. I've got videos of that on my YouTube. Guns, gas, and grenades, one of them. But I have never had a problem with the police trying to attack me or spray me or mace me. And everything that I've seen of the police doing any of those things to people that were documenting were either not taking orders when they were too close to the police, or when they were purposely approaching the police to try to provoke them. I'm not gonna put this guy on camera, but I interviewed this man last week for my YouTube. Your name's Phil, right?
Yeah.
Hey Phil, it's Phil. I interviewed you last week. I'm live streaming right now, so.
Yeah, you're the mid-right.
Yeah, I'm on the right. I would not call myself far right. I'm not a conservative. I'm not for this kind of stuff. This seems just like general lawless to me.
Yeah.
I mean, and my example of that is them destroying the elk statue. It has no political connotations to it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just put it out there. I have tendencies just a little bit on the left, you know.
Yeah.
I prioritize freedom over order and obedience. Yeah. I think generally that puts me on the left side.
All right. Explain that to me a little bit more, because my perspective on that is usually one aspect as far as freedom on a scale for right and left. The right would prefer freedom over safety, and the left would prefer safety over freedom.
I believe the right and left define freedom differently.
So what do you define freedom as? Can I put you on camera, or do you not want it? It's a live stream?
I don't care.
Okay.
I just want to be able to focus right now, because there are U.S. Marshals inside, and they've been shooting people with pepper spray and other stuff. So I want to make sure I catch it on tape if it happens.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, my definition of freedom is not a one-sentence thing. It's a feeling that you get when you can be spontaneous. It's actually something you can feel. I think people on the right think freedom is lack of oppression. I'm free from this, free from that. I think that's how they define it generally.
Yeah. I think generally on the right, and I'm not speaking for the far right, I'm nowhere near the far right, the right tends to see freedom as to be the freedom to be left alone and to tend to their own responsibility. small government, no oppressing them to speak a certain way or act a certain way.
I don't understand that as a principle when it's just one person about themselves. I don't think that's a principle. Saying, hey, it's my freedom to do whatever I want. That's one person saying they can do whatever they want. I don't think that's a principle. That's general.
It's kind of like that.
Everybody can't have that view. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any social programs of any kind.
What they do is your freedom until it collides with somebody else. Like that snake flag, do not tread on me. That's basically saying, just leave me alone. Let me be myself until.
The snake is a predator. It's a vicious, like toxic predator. It's a threat.
I don't see where that speaker was coming from.
I think somebody just drove around here.
I'm sorry.
Know if it was that.
What were you saying?
Police Bureau. This has been declared a riot. You must leave the area now by moving to the south and west. Tear gas and other crowd control munitions may be deployed. Leave the area now.
City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty today declared, and she said very firmly, please, only the police chief or the mayor can declare a riot. Unless you can define it. How
this is the Portland Police Bureau.
They haven't done either.
Declared a riot. You must leave the area now.
This is a police officer.
South and west.
This isn't the police
chief. Tear gas and other crowd control munitions may be deployed. Leave the area
I assume that when they say declare a riot, but the authority to declare a riot is just to authorize it, but not actually the person speaking. There's that.
When
he was
they
like a block
declare-
away. It sounded like it was right here.
When they declare a riot, whoever they arrest, they can just say they are rioting. They did that the night before last. To journalists?
Yeah. But what I was saying, you were saying that only the police chief. I assume the police chief did declare the riot, but he's having a police officer
He's
speak
not
on the
available.
loud club.
If he's not available, then he shouldn't be able to declare a riot. He should be available. We should hear his voice.
All right.
Anyways, I'm gonna focus on.
All right, man. I'm gonna get to my.
Appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. You should check out my YouTube, Villain Phoenix. I was up at Chop during that live. I was tweeting and I had video all over online and on the news right now. I
in
was
Seattle?
Yeah, I was filming the gunman. It's
wow.
some crazy footage, man.
Villain
Phoenix.
Villain Phoenix.
On Twitter. I mean, not my videos. You'll find them easier on YouTube. Okay, these are the riot police showing up. If anybody can get on my Twitter and under my link to this Twitch stream, just let them know what's going on so that my Twitter people might hop on here. My Twitter is @VillainPhoenix. If you get on Facebook, The Villain Report, I have a link there too. If anybody wants to do that for me, just let people know that this is getting pretty intense here and something worth watching.
This is the Portland Police Bureau. This has been declared a
People
riot.
with the guns
You must
won't
leave the
side
area
with the
now by
protesters.
moving to the south and west.
Time to go.
Tear gas and other crowd
Restraining
control
order was
munitions may be
announced
deployed.
today.
Leave
They
the
can't
area
target
now.
streamers or media anymore. Oh, that's cool. There, low. So this is the intersection of Salmon and 3rd in Southwest Portland. The riot police are here on this corner. I don't see them anywhere else yet. It was for a long time that they would only approach from one place. Somebody threw a big old bottle at them. I'm gonna cross the street here and distance myself from the people throwing rocks so that I'll be less likely to be tackled or arrested. So they're moving forward.
This is the Portland Police Bureau.
I'm
This
just
has
gonna
been
move
declared a
slowly
riot. You must leave the
with their
area
pace
now by
and keep
moving
away
to
from
the
them.
south and west. Tear gas and other crowd control munitions may be deployed. Leave
Very
the area
clearly videoing
now.
them. My hands are open.
This is the Portland Police Bureau. This has been declared a riot. You must leave the area now by moving to the south and west. Tear gas and other crowd control munitions may be deployed. Leave the area now.
Federal police staying in the building over there. So these girls are choosing to stay seated. See, the police just let them alone, did not harm them.
This is the Portland Police
Stand there with
Bureau.
them.
This has been declared a riot. You must leave the area now by moving to the south and west. Tear gas and other crowd control
There's
munitions
police at
may
the
be
Multnomah
deployed.
County
Leave
here.
the area now.
So this is going pretty peaceful so
This
far.
is the Portland Police Bureau.
Usually when
This has
something
been
like this
declared a
happens,
riot. You must leave the
the
area
crowd is a
now
lot
by
more
moving to the
provocative and they
south and
start
west.
throwing things at the police to provoke them. There's not a very big crowd here for this sort of thing. Maybe 100 to 200 people left here, not many.
This is the Portland Police Bureau. This has been declared a riot. You must leave the area now by moving to the
Mace
south
there.
and west.
Little bit
Tear
of
gas
tussle
and other
there.
crowd control munitions may be deployed. Leave the area now.
I'm gonna shut this stream down and open it up, labeled as a riot.